Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Caitlin Huey-Burns. Now, Speaker Kevin McCarthy is fresh off a bruising fight to win the gavel, and Republicans have to govern, delivering on promises made in the midterms to win back control of the House, despite infighting that was on full display for the world to watch last week. McCarthy won the Speaker's gavel after 15 ballots that spanned more than 4 days. In the process of winning over the votes, the California Republican made major concessions to the hard-right lawmakers. They include allowing any one member to call a vote to oust the Speaker. So for more on all of this, let's bring in Scott MacFarlane and Major Garrett. Scott is CBS News congressional correspondent who now lives on Capitol Hill, and Major is CBS News chief Washington correspondent who knows that place in and out. Scott, I want to start with you because traditionally a rules package may not get much attention. People at home may not even know what that is. But now we are going to learn a little bit more about what exactly these concessions McCarthy made are going to be. So what is in this rules package, and what is the chance of it passing?
Chances are good. It's really an impactful moment, Caitlin, because this is going to tell us whether that drawn-out, historic battle over who should be House Speaker is the face-off inside the Republican Party in this Congress, or the first face-off. Will there be a different faction of this 222-person House Republican conference that stops the train on its tracks on everything, including the rules package? A lot of the rules package is less than exciting, Congress to Congress. This one has some quirks to it, some changes to it brought about because of this standoff last week. Among the most noticeable changes is how it seems to give this conference the ability and mandate to cut the budget, to create and form a subcommittee to investigate the Justice Department or the weaponization of government. But there are some procedural things in there that this group on the floor called for last week that Republicans have been calling for some time, including the ability for a 72-hour review of major legislation, but also that any one member can call a vote to remove the Speaker. Caitlin and Major, that gives any one member an awful lot of power in a Republican conference that hasn't quite steadied itself just yet.
Yeah, Scott, that's a good point. And Major, I want to ask you, I mean, given what Scott just laid out, what kind of impact will some of these changes have on the institution?
So Kevin McCarthy, when he became Speaker, said to you and those at the Capitol early Saturday morning, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. With all due respect to Kevin McCarthy, this is the start. This isn't anywhere close to the finish. One of the cliches in politics is, hey, politics is a marathon, not a sprint. Well, let's talk about it in sprint metaphors. There have been 15 false starts to this sprint. 15. Now the rules package, what is that? That's tying your shoes. So you can run. So you can run the House of Representatives. Can you tie your shoes? We'll find out tonight. And that, it's even a question, goes to the underlying strength of this governing majority. The House is a majoritarian institution. It only functions if the majority can, with regularity, exercise its will. And the difficulty in electing a Speaker has created a sense of possible difficulty in tying shoes. When you have fundamental questions about those basics, the very ability of the institution to function as it's intended is up for grabs.
And so given that, I mean, what does this portend for challenges on, must-pass items of legislation? I mean, we're talking about the debt ceiling, which could have, real impact on the economy.
There are two ways to think about this. Now, there are those who went through this process who say, look, yes, it was messy, it was difficult, it was torturous, it was kind of humiliating for Kevin McCarthy, but it allowed members to be members, exercise their voice, give a chance for them to function as individualized members in ways they haven't in many, many years. And that muscle memory could be actually good. It could be a strengthening thing for Republicans. They may have gone through the worst and learned how to talk to each other. That's one possibility. The other possibility is these fault lines are now there for the world to see. They're not going to go away. And now the opposition party, the Democrats, know exactly where all those pressure points are. And what is your only goal as the minority in the House? Take those pressure points to the majority and make them work to the majority's disadvantage. The Democrats know where they all are now, and that will make it difficult, possibly, for Republicans to go.
Yeah, a lot of leverage points for Democrats, but also...
Because they've seen them all. All those things used to be done in private. No one was really sure what the pressure points are. Now everyone knows who the people are, what the pressure points are, and how they're likely to react in public under stress.
Yeah, and pressure points that this small faction can exert on leadership really at any time, Scott. I mean, that motion to vacate the chair, just taking one person to speak up. I mean, is Kevin McCarthy in a position to have this position for the next 2 years?
Pretty pivotal few weeks ahead, right, for all those reasons. But here's the thing Republican staffers are talking to me about, that it's not certain this faction that held up his speakership vote last week is the faction that causes the most trouble down the road. We've already heard some moderates have some concerns about the first few bills or the rules package. Moderates, no doubt, are concerned about what other concessions were made but not put on paper or put online to this group of Freedom Caucus members. Any 5 members of this conference can hold up anything for any reason.
And the question, Caitlin, is there a default caucus among Republicans?
Right.
Because that's the essential question of this fiscal year.
Right.
Will the United States government increase its debt ceiling? Because if it doesn't, it will default. Is there a caucus of Republicans who are in favor of default? That is the central political and governing question of this entire calendar year. We don't know the answer.
You know, one person that was also at the center of attention last week, in addition to Kevin McCarthy, was George Santos. He has obviously lied about his resume, but he was sworn in with all those members on Saturday morning, and we have not really heard from him. Scott, I know you were trying to catch him at the Capitol today, and now he is facing an potential ethics violation or a violation with the FEC. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And did he respond to your attempts to talk to him today?
Getting access to George Santos is not difficult. Getting answers from George Santos is near impossible right now. He's one of those votes Kevin McCarthy needs moving forward, not just for the speakership, but for his legislative agenda. Not only is Santos accused of lying about his backstory, his education, his professional life, he's now the subject of a formal Federal Election Commission complaint, accusing him of not being transparent about his campaign donations. Where did some of that money come from, including a big check he cut himself? And also, where was the money being spent? Some of that also raises questions. We spoke with the Campaign Legal Center, a nonprofit here in D.C., which measures and monitors FEC paperwork, and filed the complaint. Your complaint is something pretty bold. That there's a possibility there was a foreign actor that was funding this campaign?
Well, we aren't trying to say that we know that for sure. We certainly don't know that. But I think it's always a possibility when someone appears to be going to great lengths to mask the true sources of their campaign's funds. That possibility is doubly the case here because, as we know, Mr. Santos is wanted by Brazilian authorities, so he has some connection overseas. We're just putting that on everyone's radar that if someone is funneling money into their campaign through a straw donor, it could be a wealthy individual, it could be a corporation, it could even be a foreign national, and that would be a very, very serious problem.
We brought our questions to Santos about that today, and Caitlin, again, he declined to answer.
Major, someone else who's not commenting on this is Kevin McCarthy. I mean, to Scott's point, I think this story shows the challenge that he's facing, right? That he feels like he cannot comment on this because he needs Santos's support. But leadership has been completely silent on this.
Speaker McCarthy needs every vote he can count on reliably, even an ethically, possibly criminally compromised vote. That's the essence of where this story currently exists. I don't think House Republican leadership knows what the bottom of the George Santos story is, but the Washington Times reported today, and I used to work at the Washington Times a million years ago, this looks like a very solid story with names and attribution. The people within the congressional district of George Santos are already preparing for the possibility that he is either ousted or resigns. And people with names named in this article are already preparing for the idea of a special election. So this tells you what the mentality in Republican circles is about the future, short and long term, of George Santos.
Yeah, of him and, the fragility of this conference to the extent that it is one. Major Garrett and Scott MacFarlane, thank you both for joining us.